Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into your source material on serotonin. It gets called the happy chemical a lot.
Right.
But our mission here, looking at the research you shared, is really to get past that simple label. We want to find some, practical, natural ways to manage our levels of this thing.
Exactly. And that nuance is, well, it's everything. Because the sources don't just paint it as a feel-good molecule. They define serotonin as a critical neurotransmitter.
Okay.
A communication molecule, really. It operates all through the nervous system, the brain too, of course. And its main job, providing mental peace, maintaining emotional balance.
Equilibrium.
Equilibrium.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's its role, maintaining balance, what's its real, superpower in our day-to-day lives, according to the research?
The core function, the thing the sources really hammer home, is its power to help us relativize things, problems, traumas.
Relativize, put things in perspective. Precisely. It's the perspective molecule, if you like. It takes those big stressors, intense emotional conflicts, even daily knocks, and it scales them down, makes them manageable so they don't just, floor us.
Oh, yeah.
It's the mechanism that lets you handle major life stuff, like a really tough breakup or crazy hours at work, prepping for some huge exam without just, collapsing under the stress or anxiety.
That really clarifies things. So if we're running low on this perspective chemical,
Yeah.
the physical side must kick in too, right?
Yeah.
What happens then? What did the research find when serotonin drops and stress takes over?
Oh, yeah, it translates directly into physical distress, what we often call somatization.
Somatization.
Yeah, you see things like excess adrenaline release, that tight feeling in the chest, a really rapid heart rate tachycardia, clinically speaking. And severe headaches come up a lot in the sources, too. It's like the chemical imbalance literally turns into physical discomfort, showing up all over the body.
Right. Okay, let's start unpacking the solutions then, the ones outlined in your material. Now, usually when you think neurotransmitters, you think brain.
Right, always. That's the default.
But the sources point somewhere else entirely. Where is most of our serotonin actually made?
This is, I think, foundational and something most people just don't realize.
Yeah.
Up to 90%, 90% of serotonin isn't made in the brain at all.
90%. Seriously.
Yep. It's synthesized in the intestinal system, in your gut.
Wow. Okay.
That's the absolute core of the gut-brain axis connection. It just highlights how incredibly dependent our mental state, our neurological state is on what's happening in our digestion.
That number just changes everything. And it makes those common phrases we use suddenly very literal, like feeling fear in your gut or stress making your stomach hurt.
Exactly.
We sort of knew it instinctively, didn't we? That the gut feels like an emotional center.
We did. And so if those neurons down there, the ones in the enteric nervous system, that huge network lining the gut, if they're going to do their job, make and release serotonin properly, then the first step, the absolute foundation, has to be looking after your intestines. Really rigorous intestinal care.
Okay, so what does that look like? Practically speaking, it's got to be more than just like avoiding junk food, right?
Right, definitely. We need to actively optimize digestion. Think probiotics, digestive enzymes, maybe. The sources mention eating fermented foods pretty regularly, sauerkraut, kefir, things like that.
Fermented foods, okay.
But beyond just what you eat, they also really stress using strategic fasting.
Fasting, like intermittent fasting.
That's one way. Or even doing a full 24, maybe 36-hour fast every, say, 2 or 3 weeks. Sometimes using enzymes during that fast can help too. The whole point is promoting that essential intestinal equilibrium. Balance again.
Your document mentioned fixing things like intestinal permeability. Why is that leaky gut? Why is that so bad for serotonin? For people who aren't familiar.
Right. Leaky gut or intestinal permeability. It basically means the lining of your intestine is inflamed, it's compromised, it's letting things through that shouldn't get through.
Okay.
And that inflammation directly messes with the function of that enteric nervous system we mentioned. When the gut's irritated, those specialized neurons, they just can't work properly. They can't release or use the serotonin precursors effectively. So if you fix that inflammation,
Your mood gets better?
your mood gets better because the factory, so to speak, is back online and running smoothly.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Okay, superb foundation. Now, let's move beyond the gut. What other lifestyle things do the sources say we tend to overlook, but that really hit serotonin levels hard?
Sleep. Both the quality and the quantity are just, absolutely paramount according to this research.
Right. The magic number is always 8 hours, isn't it?
The ideal, is around 8 to 9 hours. And the sources add this interesting point that starting sleep before midnight seems to be better for optimal hormone release.
That's tough, though, for so many people working late, social lives.
I know. It's a huge challenge in our society.
Yeah.
So if hitting 8 hours consistently just isn't happening, where should the focus be?
Yeah.
On the quality, specifically getting enough deep REM sleep. That stage is crucial, not just for physical repair, but for mental regeneration too. Yeah. And critically,
Yes.
that's when the body releases melatonin. And you need that melatonin for synthesizing serotonin later on.
Ah, okay. It's a chain reaction.
Totally. If you manage, say, 7 hours, but it's broken, poor quality sleep, your ability to make the serotonin you need for the next day's emotional resilience, it's tanked because that initial melatonin step didn't happen properly.
Got it. Okay, sleep quality is key. Now, let's shift to movement, but movement as like chemistry, the sources are very specific about the kind of exercise needed for a serotonin boost. It's not just a gentle walk, is it?
No, not at all. We're talking high-intensity movement. Could be aerobic, could be anaerobic, like weightlifting, hypertrophy training.
High intensity.
Yeah. The mechanism seems to require really pushing it, reaching muscular failure or getting into a high aerobic zone. They mentioned like 170, 180 heartbeats per minute.
So you're deliberately stressing the body in a controlled way.
Exactly. You're inducing a temporary, controlled physiological stressor.
And then what happens?
Yeah.
Chemically. When we push that hard, what's the body's payoff?
Well, when you stop, the body has to adapt. It has to compensate for that stress. You just put it under the muscle micro tears, the adrenaline surge.
Right.
And that adaptation involves releasing endorphins, yes, but also serotonin.
Ah, there it is.
That feeling, that
Yeah.
really powerful post-workout sense of well-being, where you feel calm, mentally clear, problems seem smaller. Often happens after intense interval training or CrossFit maybe.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
That's the chemical reward kicking in. So
Yeah.
the recommendation is pretty targeted, about 3 to 4 sessions a week of that high-intensity stuff.
Okay, so gut health sorted, sleep optimized, hitting the weights hard. What does all this serotonin talk mean for what's on our plate? Because it sounds like the nutrition side is way more strategic than just eat healthy.
It really is. This is where we get into the amino acids. Serotonin is made from tryptophan.
Right, the turkey amino acid.
Makes you sleepy. That's the one people know. It's an essential amino acid.
Right.
And for it to become serotonin that affects our mood, it has to get into the brain. It has to cross the blood-brain barrier.
Okay, like a security checkpoint. And
Right.
what's the key? What lets it through?
Insulin.
Insulin, the blood sugar hormone.
Yep. Which means tryptophan entry basically needs carbohydrates.
Whoa, okay, so you need carbs for serotonin.
If you want to favor serotonin production, yes. Specifically, the sources recommend low to medium glycemic index carbs. Think legumes, pseudo-cereals like quinoa or buckwheat, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes too. These types of carbs help shuttle tryptophan into the brain.
But hang on, there's like a traffic jam at that checkpoint, isn't there? Tryptophan is trying to get in, but other things are pushing too.
Absolutely. Massive competition. Serotonin production is constantly battling it out with dopamine and adrenaline production.
How so?
Well, protein-rich foods, they're also packed with another amino acid called tyrosine.
Okay.
And tyrosine is the precursor, the starting material for dopamine and adrenaline, the get-up-and-go chemicals.
Right.
Tyrosine basically elbows its way through the same transport systems that tryptophan needs. So when tyrosine gets in easily, it actively blocks tryptophan, the serotonin starter, from getting in.
That is, wow. That's profound. So my high-protein, low-carb breakfast that I thought was making me focused and driven
It probably was.
was actually at the same time making it harder for my body to access that calm serotonin state later on.
Precisely. You were choosing drive and energy
Right.
over potentially mental peace in those subsequent hours.
Mm-hmm.
High carbs tend to favor serotonin, making you feel calmer, maybe happier, even a bit sleepy, more laid back.
Mm-hmm.
High protein favors dopamine and adrenaline, more energy, passion, drive, but yeah, potentially at the expense of that deep mental calm.
So timing becomes really important.
Crucial. The sources suggest a specific strategy. Eat those good carbs in the 2 meals after your training session.
After training, why then?
To really favor serotonin production when your body is in recovery mode and perhaps more receptive,
Yeah.
and when you maybe depleted some resources during the workout, it helps with the recovery and that sense of well-being.
Okay, that's super practical. We've built the foundation. Gut care, intense exercise, smart carb timing, better sleep. Now, if all those pieces are clicking into place, what about supplements? Do the sources suggest anything there for that final little push?
They do, but with a big warning label attached.
Always the catch.
Well, it's important. The sources are clear. These supplements are enhancers, maybe fine-tuners. They're likely to be pretty ineffective if you haven't nailed the basics. We just talked about the gut health, the exercise, the sleep, the diet.
Right. Foundation first. Noted. Okay, so assuming the foundation is solid, what are the key players in the supplement world for serotonin?
First up is tryptophan itself, or actually even better, its derivative, 5-HTP.
5-HTP. Why is that better?
The sources suggest its availability is just higher, it gets into the system more easily, and they recommend taking it perhaps alongside those post-training carb meals we mentioned.
Ah, to give it the best chance of working with the insulin spike.
Exactly, to maximize the potential for serotonin release.
Okay. What else? Any vitamins play a special role?
Yes, a vitamin B complex is important. B vitamins in general are good for relaxing the nervous system, but specifically, vitamin B6 gets a shout-out.
B6. Why that one?
It acts as a critical cofactor. It basically helps the tryptophan pathway work correctly, and it assists in the release of both serotonin and melatonin. Remember the sleep connection.
Right, it all links up. Okay, B6. Anything else maybe a bit less common that helps?
Yeah, there's concentrated saffron extract
Saffron, like the spice.
derived from it, yeah. Concentrated extract. It seems to act in a way that's a bit similar to some pharmaceutical SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It appears to help keep the serotonin that is released active in the synapse, the gap between neurons, for a bit longer. So it helps elevate mood and promote more calmness that way. It's becoming more available as a supplement.
Interesting. Okay. And finally, what about the sunshine vitamin? Vitamin D, does that link in?
Absolutely fundamental. The sources stress this. If your vitamin D levels are low, serotonin production just doesn't work as well. It suffers.
That explains the winter blues, maybe.
It's likely a big factor. Researchers often see that correlation. Places with lots of sun exposure, think countries nearer the equator or even just summer months, tend to have populations with higher baseline serotonin.
Makes sense. So what's the recommendation?
For people in winter or just not getting much sun, taking maybe 2,000 to 3,000 IU international units daily is suggested, just to make sure that basic production machinery has what it needs.
Wow. Okay, this has been incredibly practical, a really actionable deep dive. It's clear that getting that mental peace, that emotional balance, it's not one magic bullet. It's a cumulative thing, right? Using all these tools together.
Exactly. Knowledge is great, but it's most valuable when you understand it and then actually apply it. It's the total effect. Fixing the gut issues, being consistent with that intense exercise, using carbs strategically. It all adds up to create the best possible internal environment for serotonin to do its job.
So the biggest takeaways for you listening, remember, serotonin release starts in the gut. That high-intensity exercise isn't just for fitness. It's a chemical reset button for calm. And maybe counterintuitively, for some diets, carbs are actually your friend in this specific equation, timed right.
And that brings us to a final thought, a provocative one pulled from the sources. We've established serotonin helps make us calmer, happier, but we also learned it competes biologically with dopamine, the chemical driving passion, energy, focus.
Competition.
So if you now have these tools, diet, exercise, lifestyle, to consciously influence that internal balance, big question the sources leave us with is, what balance, what ratio between that calm serotonin and that driven dopamine is actually optimal for your specific life goals right now? Are you aiming purely for maximum sustained mental peace? Or is ambitious, passionate drive the priority? You now have more power potentially to consciously choose which way you lean.